Hi, everybody. Welcome to Film Reverie Live. This is our first episode in a while. I'm Becca Meyer.
I'm Balding Ewok.
That's true. Why do you always say that like it's a question?
I don't know.
I don't know. Back to your Christopher Walken. I don't know. So this is our first episode in a while, and we've actually never done a version of the show, and we've also never done it live. So right now, if you're watching us live, you found our YouTube channel and our link that we posted. If not, you're obviously watching it later. So we've been gone for a while. We made a movie. We actually made a feature film, and we've been trying to get it done and all of that stuff. And we only had time for hold on, that's hitting up against your microphone. We only had time for like one thing that controlled all of our time, so not the podcast also. Anyway, we hope you've been doing well. Today for our inaugural live video episode, we have I've known him for a long time. I almost feels like it feels weird that I didn't know you, Fred, back. I feel like I've known you longer than I actually have, because we were both doing indie film stuff in Orlando, but like never crossing paths until I don't even remember when. Anyway, we have Fred Zara, who is a talented Orlando independent filmmaker. He's currently working on a new movie, but he's prolific actually in town, and he's done a lot of stuff. How's it going, Fred?
Hi guys. How are you?
Cut to it, Fred.
I didn't know if you were talking about me. I didn't know if I was on. I'm thinking maybe.
Hold on.
Give me a second because
Brad hit the wrong button here. Hang on a second.
No, he's not. I have to bring in the display somehow.
Okay.
The display got knocked off and not brought back in.
Is it there?
In the meantime, grape nuts. They're
I'll keep talking.
Nuts.
I'll keep talking.
Discuss.
Why is it not popping in? Anyway,
it will in a second.
So I'm just going to keep talking to you, Fred. So, how's it been going?
It's going well. It's going well.
It doesn't help that the last thing he said to us was, "If you pull this off, I'll be impressed." And then it's not working.
Just that we didn't have his camera ready.
But do we need to minimize the screen so that we can?
No, just gotta wait for it to pop up.
All right, pop up. All right. Anyway, so Fred, they can't see you, but they can hear you.
That's probably best anyway.
Yeah, that's how I feel most of the time.
About you or him?
About you, actually.
Well, yeah. And now that everyone can see, they agree, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's really bothering me that this isn't working, but okay. So you have been. Just tell people a little bit about yourself. Where did you come from? When did you start making movies? All that stuff.
Where did I come from?
Yeah,
that's a good question. Well, I was born in New Jersey, Trenton, New Jersey. Been down in Orlando. It's coming up on 19 years that I've been in Orlando. So that kind of dates me right there because I was an adult when I moved to Orlando.
Dude, that's almost as long as I've been alive, Fred. That's almost as long as I've been alive.
Yeah, that's amazing. And we were born about the same year too, so which is kind of weird.
Yeah,
I don't know how that happened. So yeah, about I don't know, less than a year before I moved down to Orlando, I started going to Valencia for film production and post production. And I've always tinkered with cameras, so was a musician for a long time, and then started making short films. So we're talking around 2000-ish or something like that. 2001, started doing student films and festivals, and I've been poking around ever since then.
Did you go to school? Like when you left high school, what was your aspiration? Where did you want to end up? Were you gonna? Because you were a musician. You're a musician as well, right?
Yeah. I didn't. Well, I had a different kind of exit from high school than the typical one. So. Would
you rather me not brought that up? I'm sorry.
It's a whole no. It's fine. It's great. It's a whole different story though. I was asked to leave high school. Let's put it that way. So I didn't finish high school the typical way. I did eventually get a diploma when I was in my early 20s and started taking some college courses and stuff like that. But I was a musician for most of all of my teens, and into my 20s, and I kind of thought that was going to end up being my path. Although me and my brother used to make video skits and stuff like that when we were younger. So I kind of like always wanted to do that, but being a musician, being a drummer, just started being like the thing that I was just going to do.
Yeah.
Until I got into my early 20s, and I kind of realized I really enjoy it and I really like it, but I don't like the lifestyle. I don't like being out every night until 2, 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning at bars and stuff like that. It's just like I didn't want to do that anymore.
Yeah.
So that was kind of weird, and so it took a couple years for me to figure out that maybe I could do something else. I started doing graphic design, and I started playing around a little bit with acting, and then filmmaking sort of came along.
Is that how you were making money? Actually, were you playing like gigging as an actual musician?
No. I to this day I don't know that I've ever made money as a musician.
Oh, okay. Me either.
Yeah.
So
Hey,
we're even.
there's Fred.
Yeah. So cut to Fred. There's Fred. We got your camera working. We got your.
You got me?
There you are.
Yeah, I had to reboot the software.
Yeah, we had a failing there, but.
All right, let's just bring it back to the intro. Now the show can start. Now
No,
we're all here.
We're all good.
Film Reverie,
no.
relive.
Film Reverie, relived. Yeah. So okay,
No.
so what was your start? Like, what made you when you were a kid? What was that movie or TV show that you saw that made you want to?
Some people agree with this. Some people think it's silly. Some people think it's childish. But E.T. is my movie.
Yeah.
E.T. is I was 10 years old when E.T. came out. Elliot was 10 in the movie. Something about the movie got me to, took me away. Steven Spielberg once said that he made E.T. and then John Williams made him fly. Well, and I agree with that. The music, the whole theme, and everything, and so that kind of took me into that other world.
Awesome.
And then Indiana Jones and Gremlins and all those kind of movies from the '80s. And growing up in Trenton, there's not a whole lot going on there. There's not a whole lot of outlets for creative people.
Yeah.
And then you go into this dark movie theater, and all of a sudden you're not in Trenton anymore.
Yeah.
Now you're in California flying around on a bike with E.T. So that's kind of where it kind of got me to get me started. Now, not to say that my films, if you've seen my films, look like Steven Spielberg films, because I don't think that they do, but that's one of my earliest influences for sure.
It's weird. I love E.T. And I always have loved E.T. So it's not that at all. But I think I've probably seen E.T. maybe less than 5 times in my life. So that wasn't the movie for me. But you mentioned probably one of the movies that started my imagination rolling was probably the Indiana Jones movies, which a kid growing up in the '80s, a 10, 12-year-old boy growing up in the '80s, like Indiana Jones just got me. And of course, Empire Strikes Back. But
and those are like the kid movies that get you started. And then there was like a rebirth somewhere in the 90s with movies like Hoop Dreams, and then
oh my God, you may be the only person. You're the only person I've talked to You're the only person I've talked to in a decade who even knows what Hoop Dreams is. It was awesome.
Well, movies like Hoop Dreams, and Reservoir Dogs. And then, of course, I didn't see I'm blanking here. Raging Bull. I didn't see Raging Bull until much later, after, of course, it was released.
Yeah.
And I think I saw it somewhere around that same time, in like the early to mid '90s or '90s or something like that. And then when I started seeing movies like that, and I was like, oh, wait a second, like I knew the Steven Spielberg, Indiana Jones, epic kind of stuff, and I really liked those things. But then I saw these smaller movies that were like mostly just people talking and hollering at each other, and like things that I like kind of more related to on a personal level. I was like, wait a second, this is a movie too? Like I could not to take anything away from those filmmakers, but I was like I could maybe do something like this.
You could see that, yeah.
There's I don't know that I could fly with E.T. or anything like that. Yeah. That's maybe beyond my imagination, but this is just like a bunch of Italian people yelling at each other. I could maybe pull something like that off.
Yeah, it's weird because when I tell people like the first movie that made me want to make movies, like all of those movies you just mentioned sparked imagination. My childhood, Head in the Clouds sort of stuff that I was just doomed to be like. But Um, when I tell people what my first like movie that made me want to make movies was, it was the Martin Scorsese remake of Cape Fear. Something about that movie just it's clicked in my head, and I said, I want to make movies. I want to do that. That was the one that where it clicked. And then, I quickly started devouring stuff. And I was a music major for a couple of years. I was a trumpet player, and I wanted to be a film composer so I always wanted to. I was sort of in that realm, but I never was very good at it. The ideas in my head I couldn't get them out musically. But when I sat in front of a computer and started writing, I started to feel like, oh, I can actually make these pictures sort of work. But the sounds in my head when I was like a musician, I couldn't get them out on the page in the same way. So I sort of veered off into that. Anyway.
No, I actually, it's still to this day, it's hard for me to think of myself as a writer. Mm-hmm. My brother Chris was always such a great writer growing up, and he wrote all of the screenplays for our early short films. He's now a journalist in New York City. I mean, he wrote a book that was published. I mean, in my mind, like, he's like a real writer.
Yeah.
Right. I know I never went to school for writing. I had the dyslexia thing. Words never were my favorite thing to put down on paper. Mm-hmm. So that's never really anything that I thought that I would do or be good at.
Yeah.
But I understand films and film structure, and I understand how to put together a screenplay. And at one point, I just started kind of doing it, and it seemed to. I don't want to say it came natural, because that sounds a little bit like arrogant.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the struggle that I thought it was going to be.
Well, you mentioned dyslexia, but it almost seems like telling a story with pictures would be a natural, naturally. It seems obvious that it would you might naturally gravitate towards being able to tell stories in a visual, emotional way, instead of trying to convey them with words.
Well, sure, but writing a script, writing dialogue is a whole different animal.
How did you get to where? Because you write all your screen, and we're going to talk about Read Me in just a second. So I'm glad you brought this up. But
yeah,
how did you get past that that roadblock? Because you write all your screenplays now, right? Just written by Fred Zara.
Yeah. Well, I think where it actually happened was when I started working for Treehouse, which is where my job. Mm-hmm. Early on at Treehouse, we were doing a lot of narrative sort of along with it's a technology school that teaches technology. Early on, when I first started working there, we were doing narrative stuff to go along with to try and encourage the students to stay with the teaching, the knowledge. So part of the narrative stuff, like, it was just the early days of that company, we were just encouraged to kind of just try stuff, so that was I don't know, 6 years ago or something like that now. And it's not that I hadn't written anything before that, but then I had the backing of a company with a little bit of money behind it. So it was just like, hey, Fred, you make movies. We need this narrative story for this. Go do it. And I all right, I'll just start writing it. And I would just write these, for Treehouse, I would just write these 12 page, stories, write them with a script, bring in actors, brought in Dan Watts for one of them, bring in some actors that I knew, and just started producing these smaller, like, narrative stories for Treehouse. And I was like, oh, like, this actually, in comparison to the stuff that I see out in film festivals, a lot of short films and stuff that I've done in the past that my brother wrote. I'm not going to say that my stuff was better, but, like, it holds up. Like, I can do this.
Yeah.
So after I worked on 7 Lives of Chance, which was Banks Helfrich's film, I was the assistant director and editor for that. After we produced that for like $7,000 or something, it really got me thinking, like, why don't I just write a feature script and pull together, a few $1,000s and just do it. So Read Me was actually, I wrote a feature script a long time ago when I was in film school, that was probably garbage, and I don't even know where it's at now. But it's laying around somewhere. But Read Me was like my first, like, real feature length script that I, like, kind of
really honed
it down and actually produced it.
I did not know that. I was I vomited screenplays for a long time. I've got like 20 or 23 of them, you know, and I've only made one feature film at this point. But a lot of it is write a bad script, then write another script that's not quite as bad, and then it's like, and then the ideas are in there. And at this point I've started stealing from some of my better ideas from some of my crappier scripts, and just like, you know. But I had no idea that Read Me was your first feature screenplay. So
It upsets you inside, doesn't
it's annoying. It's annoying it's annoying for two reasons. It's annoying for two reasons because you just said, I'm going to write the screenplay and I'm going to make this movie, and then you did. I fucking hate you. But like I struggled for a long time up until last year. Well, we struggled during our, you know what it's like. We struggled during our feature as well. But I struggled just to get little short films made for like a decade. And I mean, I was married for a lot of it.
It's always a struggle, man. It's not like it's not a struggle for me.
But everybody,
it certainly is.
The benefit you have is that everybody loves Fred Zara.
I hardly think that's true.
So,
I think my star might be fading with this whole suicide theme that I'm going for.
Well, before we go too far, I do want to show people a clip from your Read Me. So let's show the Read Me teaser. Actually, yeah, show the Read Me teaser.
It should be the second to last one.
You should be proud of yourself. I mean, it takes a lot of guts to get up there in front of people like that.
Yeah?
Yeah. I know I couldn't do it.
Sure you could. Or is this part of that whole I don't play guitar in front of people thing?
I have a thing.
Yeah, you kind of do. Anyway, you'll be fine. Oh, hey, in fact, why don't you help me run lines?
Run lines.
Yeah, for my audition.
No, thank you.
Come on, Clark, it would really help me out.
No, Rachel, I'd really rather not.
But look, you don't have to act it out. Just read me the lines.
Yeah, that's the problem.
What is?
Oh, God, Rachel,
You know what? Just forget about it. Don't worry about
No,
it.
Rachel,
No big
wait.
deal.
I never learned to, I can't read. I can't read.
All right, so we think we had an audio thing drop out. Anyway, the scene that we showed was the scene on the bench.
That wasn't the teaser.
That wasn't the teaser, but it was the scene on the bench where the two of them are talking. Do you remember that clip that you sent me? Explain a little bit about that clip.
Well, were you teased by it? Because I mean,
it ended up not being the teaser clip, but it did play. It was the scene. I think I've seen the movie a couple times, so I think it's the one where he's explaining that
it's where he's kind of getting together with this girl. Clark is the main character. He's got dyslexia, and he's almost 40 years old, and he's kind of a loner. So he's it's not something that anyone knows. He doesn't really have a lot of friends, and even the one friend that he does have, he doesn't really talk about it. So this is where he's getting close to this girl, and it kind of comes out that this is like this weird secret that he just like hasn't told anybody.
So this is, of course, at least inspired by events of your life in a way. How much of it was, I've always wanted to ask you this, is autobiographical, and how much of it is just, there's this character that he's dyslexic, and you understand that part of it, and then you just told a completely fictitious story from that point, or?
It's pretty much all fictitious. Mm-hmm. There's two scenes in there that I kind of grabbed from real life. One of them is the silly scene where they're talking about kicking their dogs or something like that, right?
Okay.
It's just these two guys that are the whole purpose of the scene is to see Clark as like kind of a regular guy relate to people on a different level, and he's kind of just having a conversation with his friend, and the conversation that they're having mirrors a conversation that I had in real life. Mm-hmm. And the other scene is the very first scene in the movie where there's 10-year-old Clark that is kind of pulled from my life, whereas growing up not being able to read for a while, at 10 years old, dealing with the dyslexia thing, when you're in class and they're going from person to person, from student to student, and we're all reading from the same book. Okay, next chapter, Michael, it's your turn to read, and then behind you, okay, Brad, it's your turn to read. So in those situations, when you don't want your turn to come up because it'll be a standstill where like you're trying to sound out every word and all the kids are laughing at you. So like you're counting the kids in the class. Okay, as soon as this kid goes, then I'm next. So then I'm going to go to the bathroom, and hopefully when I get back, then they'll be past me and they'll forget. Like there's a whole like trying to figure out how to game the system so you don't get embarrassed. That whole scene is the first scene in the movie that I kind of ripped from stuff that happened when I was younger.
Well, how old were you? Did you when you were the 10-year-old Clark? Did you know you were dyslexic, or you just couldn't figure out why you think words didn't make sense to you?
It was around then, 7, 8. Yeah. I don't know, 9. Yeah. I mean, we're talking the late 70s, early 80s, somewhere. I guess early 80s. Mm-hmm. So it's I would imagine, I hope, that they have more programs for those kind of things, and like they have people like testing and working with students more so than back then. Yeah. You're not just labeled, oh, he's kind of dumb, he can't read.
Exactly. When I was in school, I'm not dyslexic. I don't have, and I don't even think I don't have a learning disorder or anything like that. But when I was in school, I just wasn't I have a right brain. I am not really academically intelligent. I'm not naturally good at math or science or those things like that. So I always thought that meant that I was stupid. I'm dumb, and it really until I was in my mid-20s that I put the pieces together and realized that just because I wasn't good at math didn't mean I was dumb. I was just there's so many different kinds of ways of being intelligent.
Yeah, and it was about the same with me. I mean, once I got my diploma, and in my early 20s I started going to school for graphic design. Mm-hmm. Graphic design was something that I was kind of tinkering with myself. Yeah. Programs like CorelDRAW and Photoshop and stuff like that. I was kind of doing those things on my own. Mm-hmm. So like when I went to a college class for it, I already kind of knew my way around the program. I could manipulate photos and do certain things. So that was my first college class, and it was weird that all the other students in class that were very new to this whole technology of manipulating photos. At that time, this is 1997 or something like that, were coming over to my desk and oh, how did you do that? And oh, show me that. And suddenly, I went from a kid that got thrown out of high school, dyslexia, I was held back when I was in second grade. All of this, I didn't have a great learning experience or schooling experience. And now I'm in my early 20s, 10 years later or something like that. And all of a sudden, I'm the star student. I'm, everybody's coming to me. The teacher's using me as a TA, and it was just a weird. I'm oh, maybe I can excel at this kind of stuff because it's a different kind of learning. It's a different kind of creativity. It's not reading from a book.
Right. So the amazing thing to me is that you find these little nuggets of things, and either in your life or something that happened to you. And you can take them and you take those little. I don't want to diminish it by just saying it's like an issue of the week or month or something like that. But something like dyslexia, and then your next film that you're working on now, The Suicide of James Ryder, is sort of it's about. Well, instead of me saying it, why don't you explain your next film, and then we'll play your Kickstarter video.
No, well, it's about suicide. Yeah. Well, before I explain that, I'll go back to when I first started writing Read Me. Mm-hmm. So I sat down on a couch. Actually, this couch right over here. Well, the couch is gone, but the room is still there. I sat down on the couch and I'm just going to write a script, and I'm just going to write a script that I can control the locations and the amount of people are in it, so I can keep the production low, and I can just make this movie. And the phrase "write what you know" kept coming to my mind. So I'm sitting there trying to I need to write something, but what do I know? And the first thing that came out was, well, I know what it's like to be a kid that doesn't know how to read. So I just started poking away at that, and then trying to think of like, well, how else can I make that interesting? Well, if you can't read, what else can you do? Maybe you can read people. So I built on write what you know. So going back to the new film, write what you know. This film is actually really pulled from real life. I change all the names and I blend people together. So I'm not calling it an actual true story. If Fred Zara is not in it, I changed the title character. But there are people that are inspired. The characters are inspired by real people. Yeah. There are several scenes in the film that are happen word for word as they're scripted. And what the film is about suicide. Although suicide, excuse me, suicide's in the title. Everything all right?
Everything's
there,
good.
Brad?
Yeah, he's just trying to give me a message. Yeah, keep going. Just ignore us like you've been doing. You're doing good.
No, I just want to make sure.
Just because I'm flicking you off while you're talking doesn't mean you need to stop.
All right. Well, you're sending me all these dirty texts on the side. I don't appreciate that. So anyway, so the film is about people in their mid to late 20s, and the film takes place in 2001, which is pre-internet taking over the world, smartphones taking over the world, pre 9/11. It's kind of a different world when a group of friends kind of sat around. They either watched TV or they talked. They didn't sit there on their phones and like text each other back and forth, right? So it's about this tight group of friends in the year 2001, and one of them commits suicide, and it's at that weird age where you're about to hit 30, so you're kind of reevaluating your life anyway, and what does life mean? And maybe at that age, most people haven't had someone of their age pass away, like maybe a grandparent or an uncle, God forbid, someone closer. But most people haven't really experienced someone of their age in their 20s that have passed away, someone that you saw yesterday and now they're not here anymore. Yeah. So the film is less about the actual person and the suicide, and it's more about this group of friends that are trying to figure out what does life mean, and this person is now gone. We don't want to remember them as just a suicide victim. How can we take something positive from their life? But we're hurt and we're angry, but we're sad. It's about how the friends are dealing with this, and it follows one person in particular who's never even met this person, and is kind of just inundated with all these stories and like this sadness and he's trying to reevaluate his life, and he's trying to coming of age as well, and now he's thrown into this new group of friends that are dealing with this suicide, and so that's largely what the movie's about, is like trying to deal with loss and trying to move on and be the person that you're going to be for the rest of your life.
So the one of the main ways filmmakers get movies made these days is Kickstarter. Going back to the increasingly dry well of friends with money.
I have a feeling that this is going to be my last time. I'm getting that shoulder feeling, that cold shoulder feeling.
So I've done them before too, and Brad's done one with me before as well. Yeah. It's not even that it's like a cold shoulder. It's just hard to get people to sit up there. They want to support you. They want to help you make your movie, but they might not want to give you $50 to make the movie, or $100 or $25. They just might not even know. They might not even understand. And it's like,
well, I think that's an important point, is that a lot of people don't necessarily understand. One thing I noticed when I start posting about this project that I'm working on, I've gotten a fair amount of people contact me or comment on my stuff or private message me and say congratulations on the project. That looks great. I can't wait to see it. But there's no mention of like, I'd love to give you $5. I'd love to contribute $20. I'd love to give whatever I can. There's no mention of that. Almost as if like they don't really understand that, like, I appreciate you saying congratulations. I appreciate you saying you want to see the film. But if people don't contribute to the campaign, there's not going to be a film to see. Because I don't have money laying around to make films.
Yeah. So what I wanted to do is show your Kickstarter video, which is your another sort of synopsis of your film, but also a plea for support. And we'll come back and...
This is a short version of the Kickstarter video that's on the campaign page.
Oh, okay.
So this is only like a 2-minute version of the video that explains a little bit more if you go to the campaign page.
Right. Okay. So here we go. This is Fred's Kickstarter video for the suicide of James Ryder.
Hi, I'm Fred Zara. I'm the writer and director of the independent film The Suicide of James Ryder. This will be my most important and personal film to date because it's based on a true story. The character of James Ryder is based on a friend of mine that committed suicide in 2001. As heavy of a subject as this is, the film is actually pretty inspirational. It deals with themes of friendship and coming of age and how to live life to the fullest.
So I don't understand why nobody else is fucking pissed at the guy. I am pissed!
We have some wonderful talent already attached to this film. Leading the cast is Andrew Romano. Andrew was recently seen on screen with Willem Dafoe in Sean Baker's The Florida Project, which premiered earlier this year at the Cannes Film Festival. Joining Andrew will be Kelly Dagnan, Zach Lane, and Daniel Wachs. Daniel recently worked with Kristen Stewart on the Lizzie Borden drama, which is due out later this year, called Lizzie. And we also have international recording artist Melody Federer, who is not only donating some of her music to the project, she's also writing an original piece of music specifically for this film. This film can't happen without your support. So please support this campaign, share it, tell everyone about it, come on this journey with us. Help me honor the legacy of an old friend while creating an inspirational film. Thank you.
Okay, so there you go is Fred's video, his Kickstarter video, his pitch video for The Suicide of James Ryder, which is largely inspired by actual events. You know, the first thing I thought about when I saw this and heard about what you were working on is, I think the movie was called The Big Chill, about a group of friends.
Yeah.
Is that, was that in any way in your mind, like the way you framed the whole thing, the friends dealing with the death of a friend?
No, and it wasn't until after I wrote the script that someone brought up The Big Chill to me, and it, you know, I'm like, oh yeah, there is kind of a a connection there.
And the loss of a friend also is like when you were talking just a minute ago, I realized there's another similarity in our path. Like Brad and I both had a friend, the same guy, not two different friends, who when I was about 24 and he passed away like overnight. He was there one day and gone the next. He had sickle cell anemia and just like had a sickle cell anemia crisis and just was no longer there. And you were right. It's a very weird feeling. It's just like you're when you're 60, 70 years old, you're used to friends. You get used to friends like passing away like frequently because you just get used to it. But when I was 24, I was like, friends dying or me dying or like mortality was like very, very far away. It's like your grandmother died, your great aunt died, your friend that was just a couple years older than you didn't die. It's not time for that yet, you know. And it was so weird.
And there's a weird feeling that like you're gonna eventually see them in a couple years and go to your friend and say like, remember that time when you died, man? That was weird. You should have your funeral was so weird, dude.
It's so weird.
Yeah, it was weird. I remember. But then as time goes on, you're like, oh, they're still dead. They're really just not coming back.
I've continued to have dreams about my friend over Morris. His name was Morris. over the years.
You made a really nice little film about Morris.
You saw that. Thank you. Like you're one of the maybe 5 or 6 people who've actually seen that. No, he, and I've had dreams. In fact, I talked about it in that short film. Like I've had dreams where he came back, and I had that conversation with him. You died, man. Do you remember this? He said, yeah, but I'm back. And it's just this weird. And I've had dreams through like once every couple of years, I'll have just like another dream, and it's so weird how that is how my friend is still around with me.
It's funny. I don't know how relevant it is to what we're talking about, but after my dad died, I had a hard time dealing with it. Like I was like numb to it and didn't.
I thought that's just how you were.
But also, I was just so devastated.
Yeah.
But it's weird talking about dreams. Mm-hmm. He came in my dreams a couple times. Mm-hmm. He's in it, and the dreams sort of built me up to. I was aware, and he was aware, and then we both addressed the issue. And my dreams allowed me to. What do you call it? I could say the things I didn't get to say.
Yeah.
And I was able to be at peace with all of it. It's kind of weird.
It's amazing how your brain continues to try to figure shit out, even when you don't realize it. It's really kind of amazing. So,
well, I mean, I think that's why art is so important.
Yeah.
Right. Because here we are, living these lives, and a lot of times there's these things that we have to deal with, and a lot of times we feel like we're going through all this stuff by ourselves. And then art has a way of reminding us that someone else is going through the same thing.
Yeah.
Even if my friend that passed away is not Morris, and your friend, they're not the same person. But if I can speak to you in a song or a movie or a piece of artwork in some way that lets you know that we're on the same path. We have the same things in common. And I think I think storytellers, we have that responsibility. There's nothing wrong with entertainment for entertainment's sake.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with a good roller coaster, but even roller coasters now, they're tying in backstories,
Yeah.
because we want a little bit more. We want to take something home that connects us all as human beings.
How do you feel, or your friends feel, that they're some sort of mashed up version of them are ending up in your story? How many of them have? How are they reacting to knowing that there's going to be at least some kind of a fictitious amalgam of them on a screen somewhere at some point?
I haven't really connected with some of them. Mm. One person in particular, I don't think is hasn't quite said so, but I don't think wants to return to any of this.
Yeah.
And I'm not pushing that. Other people, I think are very, very pleased that we're remembering our friend this way, and because it's one of those people, James, and the real guy's name was James Ballard, and he was a Florida, Orlando guy through and through, and he was one of those guys that, like, I would probably say it's fair to say every group of friends has their James Ballard. They have this guy that like cross-pollinates through groups of friends. He hangs out with the headbangers. He hangs out with the punk rockers. He can hang out with a lawyer. He can hang out with the basketball players. Like, he can kind of find that common language with anyone and talk to them on their level. So he just kind of like knows, like, all kind of people know him. And it's one of those people that if they don't pass away when they're younger, 20 years down the road, you're always like, oh yeah, whatever happened to that guy? However, with suicide, it's always like, oh, whatever happened? Oh, he's the guy that killed himself.
Yeah.
And that kind of becomes his legacy.
Isn't it more like,
fact,
instead of whatever happened to that guy, isn't it more like, what was there something that I did or didn't do, or did I not do enough? Did I say something that caused this person to do that?
Well, there's that. There's the guilt part of it too.
Yeah,
for sure. But going back to what his legacy becomes, a person that has so many different friends, inspires people in different ways, knows song lyrics that you would not know, builds retro bikes, has all of these different interests in, like, things that you're like, make them the interesting person that has all of these friends, right? You know, but then when they commit suicide, they're suddenly just remembered as the person that commits suicide. We forget the person, you know, and like today is National Suicide. God, I'm gonna butcher it.
Is it awareness?
Suicide Survivors Day.
That's right. Suicide Survivors Day. Yeah.
International Suicide Survivors Day.
Is there?
And that's great.
Why is it called Survivors?
Because people who've survived someone they know committing suicide, it's like,
right.
Because those people, they have survivor's guilt. They have, like, you know, stuff that, like, they never would have. It's just hard to figure out how to deal with that stuff, like, psychologically. It's almost, it's you know, suicide, but there's, like, it could be any sort of survivors sort of thing. But today is National Suicide Survivors Day.
Is there another kind? Is there just that? Is there a Suicide Day, or is it just Survivors Day?
I don't think they call it Suicide Day, though, because that kind of gives off the wrong.
I didn't mean to.
It gives the wrong. It's Suicide Day. No, that's not what we meant.
Okay, so now it makes sense why it's Survivors Day, because of the way that sounds. Okay, I got it.
The Suicide Survivors Day comes the day after Suicide Day. Because if you're still there, then I'm sorry, that's a horrible pun.
Gallows humor.
That's a horrible pun. Yeah. I'm trying to bring light to a very weighty situation.
Dude, Fred, that is something that you do very well. Like, in your stories that I've seen, you grab the thing and you find a way to thread it through, so that it might, if like anyone could maybe veer off and end up making it, not making it, but like seeing it as sort of a devastating or sad way. And I don't mean that you just concentrate on the light, fluffy stuff, but you do take that stuff that's very serious and find a way to weave it out so that it makes a purpose, like a point. So you're like, it seems to me like we're just telling a story. It's like, whatever it is, it's like, yep, but what's the point of all this for us? Like, why are we just going to sit here and be sad for 2 hours? Like, how is this going to, how am I going to get a message across to people so that it touches them, but doesn't leave them wanting to, you know, curl up in a ball and cry all night?
And I agree. My intent is not to make a film that people are going to feel miserable after they leave. Although I want to touch on a very serious subject. Yeah. You know, and Suicide Awareness Day is very important. Depression, you know, talking about depression, all that stuff is very important. But what is sometimes lost in those conversations is the person themselves and what their life, you know, their life is now over. But what did their life stand for? What can we take from what positive from their life when they were here? You know, what we learn from them and stuff like that. So that's kind of one of the points that I'm trying to get across in the film is that this it's horrible when this happens, but everyone reacts to it differently. And let's I'm not trying to answer any of these questions. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm not trying to I'm certainly not trying to make a film that's going to put suicide in a positive light. Mm-hmm. That's the last thing that I want to do. Yeah. But at the same time, you know, I do want to have open-ended questions of like, you know, let's see how some people get upset. Like I said, some people, are just really sad. Some people are angry. Some people are numb. You know, there's all different ways that people deal with it. But so that's kind of just what I want to explore. You know, how these friends are dealing with the loss and, you know, the guilt.
It's good because you do want to leave people with a way to find some hope, you know, some thought out thesis or essay on like how you deal with this sort of thing. And as somebody who's gone through it, you know, you have at least the Fred Zara perspective. That doesn't mean Fred Zara is the only perspective, but Fred Zara's perspective is this. And maybe you can say that to somebody. Your film can say that to somebody, and they can go, "Oh, I never really thought of it that way. Yes, I see it now." Just the other day, I was talking to a coworker about something and it was something I said off the cut, like on the side. She was telling me about something, and I said, "Well, you know, I've had that happen before. I've felt that way, and I've always attributed it to, well, I know this is happening because blank." Like, I won't go into details because it was a personal thing for my coworker, but blank. And she stopped and she said, I'm having an epiphany right now. It's like what you just said is something that I never thought of, even it's just obvious. And that's something that I had happen to me. You know, it was having to do with my divorce and raising my child that way, like from a divorced house. And like my daughter is a lot like my ex-wife sometimes, and she's a lot like me, but she's also every now and then she reminds me of my ex-wife, and I have to not get mad at my daughter because she's reminding me of my ex-wife. You know what I mean? So I have to filter that out. And when I said that to her, she's like, I never even, boom, you know what I mean? And I wasn't trying to bequeath an epiphany towards her. Let me speak from on high and say the thing. I was just giving my perspective, you know, and it helped. So it's that your own personal, unique perspective on things that can actually contribute to someone else figuring their shit out. You know what I mean? And that's what I like about seeing a great movie. That even if it's like Indiana Jones, that movie shaped my life in a way. You know what I mean? Or even more serious movies that are like really just heartfelt and touching and make you think that way. They do affect your outlook on the world. Like that's what's so cool about movies is that they are the most. I tell my students all the time that it's the most emotionally manipulative medium. Like you can slow time down, you can speed things up, you can bring the music up and really manipulate. Actually, manipulation, like manipulate people's emotions. Feel like this right now, and then if you do it well, they don't realize they want you to manipulate their emotions. It's not like you're being like heavy-handed, like beating them over the head with a hammer. You're like tricking them. And at the end of the movie, you're like, oh my God, I cried 3 times. I laughed the whole time. You know, it's like, that's the magic trick. That's what I like so much about making movies.
I completely agree. I mean, I wrote a blog about this recently that I grew up with 2 older brothers, and I was the youngest in the whole household. So, you know, when you deal with that, you're always like trying to get your voice heard, and like, where are we going to go for dinner? And like, I never get to say, you know what I mean? Nobody listens to Fred.
Then you get married and have
the whole
kids.
Thing. And like filmmaking is like this ultimate like, you're going to watch my point of view for a couple of hours, right? Yeah. This is the way. This is exactly what I want you to see and hear for the next couple of hours, and this is the world. And it's just like, you're gonna listen to me, and I'm gonna, you know, whether you like it or not, you know, that's up to for interpretation. Yeah. But you know, it's like you're getting the final say of everything.
So that is exactly why I like making. That's another reason why I like making movies. Is you go to work, you deal with somebody else's ideas, you put up with other people's bullshit, and blah 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 all day. It's going to work. It's just what it is is your job. Even if you like your job, it's just you are being wagged by the dog. And when I sit down in front of a computer, start writing or something like that, this is me wagging the dog. This is my time. So I'm not going to sit here and try to do what I think might work or what other people might think. It's like, this is my time to I'm not going to be done with this until it's exactly what I want it to be, because this is my one time where I get to do the Beckmeyer stamp of approval on something. And I was a video professional, television professional for a long time, and I never got to sit there and meticulously. No, it's not chop one frame off because there's not enough time. Because you know, in news and television, they just want to shit stuff out so you can get to the next one.
Yeah.
My boss even said to me one day, he said, Beckmeyer, people put shit on television every day. And I said, yeah, but that doesn't make it right. That's like, I don't want to. He was like trying to get onto me because I was taking too long.
In other words, everything you learned so that you could express yourself and do it well. They said, no, throw all that out the window. Just crap it out.
Crap this out. So kind of like you're doing right now with this, Brad.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, so
we're crapping out great television.
But so it is your time to put this is my tone of voice, my personality. It's exactly what I want it to be and say. And that's what's so cool about being an indie filmmaker, because you really can do that. Somebody didn't give you $10 million to do this. You pulled money out of your the seat cushions, over there. I found 50 cents. We can get that other shot. Actually, shots don't cost 50 cents. They cost way more.
Well, I mean, that goes back to the point about Kickstarter. Like, I don't have like some studio that's knocking on my door waiting for dailies and
Yeah.
When am I going to see the next draft of that script, Fred? And that's not the way indie filmmaking works.
Mm-hmm.
You pull the money together to tell these stories, and you just, as an independent filmmaker, you make it independently, which is why things like Kickstarter, crowdfunding, really, change the dynamic of filmmaking.
And the other beautiful thing is that I found when we were working is we get a chance to work with people who, when actors, I'm talking about actors and camera people and all that, actors in particular who, in Orlando, is a real big commercial sector, and they don't always get to do, if there's a film being put together, it's some like B horror movie, slasher, bullshit, nonsense stuff that everybody, I'm not judging, but I'm not going to make one of those movies. I want to make something that's got something a little more on its mind, like it seems to me like you do. Fred's never made a slasher movie.
No.
Yeah, see,
Not in the words of Seinfeld, not that there's
anything wrong with that. But you get to work with other people who also, like, when you're putting something together like that, you get to work with other people who are now getting the chance to work on something more meaningful also as an actor. And you're getting, like, the other artists that you're involving are also getting a chance to, like, deepen their skill, knowledge base, like their emotional, like, outreach towards something. And one of the clips you have here that I want to play is an actor you've worked with multiple times, right? You worked with Dan Walks a lot of times. He's someone we've interviewed on this show. He's been in one of my short films, and but he's one of those people that you've actually been able to work with and collaborate with
again and
again, so that. You've done things that neither one of you would have been able to do if not for the other person making the effort, So, right. But this is Dan. The clip we want to play now is Dan basically expressing his feelings on why the film should be made and how to help you. And it's another part of your Kickstarter campaign, which I think is cool. You have the actors actually coming on camera saying, "Here's why." So it's not just you. The whole time, because it can feel like that.
Yeah. I've done a campaign where it was just me and I didn't get the money. So I realized it makes a lot more sense to show people that it's not just me groveling for money.
Right.
Although it is my passion project, I'm actively putting a team together to make this thing happen.
Yeah.
And I'm going to show you a piece of that team.
Yeah. Awesome. So let's roll that clip.
I'm Daniel Walks. I play the role of Mr. Holcomb. The director, Fred Zara, cast me in his last feature film, Read Me, and gave me a supporting role where I got a chance to play opposite the lead actor, Tim Williams. And it was great. Fred approached me with the possibility of this new project, and I wanted to jump right in, wouldn't hesitate. Yeah, I mean, the film surrounds the aftermath of the suicide that occurred, and there's this circle of friends. And to me, this film is about the circle of friends. So I think a lot of the dynamic of this screenplay is about the relationship of the friends to each other. Fascinating stuff. And one outsider who comes in, and will he penetrate the circle of friends? Will he become a part of it? There is a relationship between the main character, Richie, and James Ryder, who he has never met. And he gets to form that relationship through the interaction with this circle of friends. Everyone knew this guy, James, really deeply. And each one of them was affected differently by his passing. Fred, the word director is an interesting word, because that's like directing and managing and stuff like that. If Fred does directing, it's my personal experience, it happens before the film is actually shot. It has to do with discussing the character, getting into the development and the backstory of what this person really is. In my case, Mr. Holcomb, the boss. So by the time you walk on that set, you know who you are as a character. Just do it. We all have our dance that we do. We dance our dance. And then we live our lives according to this dance that we do and allow ourselves to do it. This script is about a young man who is deciding whether or not he can lead a different kind of a life and free himself with the bonds of his own personality. You know, it's if you can change a dance step that you do and dance a different dance, you have to grow. It's about growth. It's about transformation.
Okay, so that was Dan Walks talking about. Does he go by Dan or Daniel?
Professionally, I think he goes by Daniel, but
Daniel. I call him Dan.
We know him. We know
him. We're on a. It's like, Robert De Niro or Bob.
Yeah,
I call him Danny.
No, so that was Dan Walks talking. Daniel Walks talking about his collaboration with Fred on their new project called "The Suicide of James Ryder," which I'm just gonna ask you to give your last pitch to people before we go. Explain what it is, why, how they can get to you, and we have a graphic we'll pull up that sort of says what you're and how to get a hold of you and all that stuff.
If we're gonna wrap up, did we see my trophies?
Oh, your trophies, right?
Right. My lanyards, my film festival lanyards. We make sure that was on the whole time, right?
They were on the whole time, prominently displayed.
They were.
You're an official filmmaker. You have filmmaker lanyards, not from film festivals that you bought, but you paid to get into. You are invited to be there.
And I have this.
The Indiana Jones hat. I love it. I love it. And you by the way, we didn't mention this, we didn't get to it, but your new short film that's currently out to festivals is winning awards at pretty much everywhere it goes, seems. So you should be
it's
really
doing pretty good.
Actually, can we
we're real happy.
Can we take a second to show the trailer for his, not the trailer, but the teaser for his talk? It should be the one right after the one we just played here. This is the teaser for talk.
Okay, this one here should be that one. Let's see if this works, folks.
So, tell me about yourself, Casey.
Hi there. Can I get you something?
Oh, no, I'm just here to meet somebody.
Steven, I want a divorce.
Andrew?
Julia?
Yes.
Oh, great. What's with you?
So now I want to hear about you.
Me?
You, Casey, not your job, not school. You. I don't know, maybe I'm just being too picky. I'm just looking for someone that gets me.
Okay, I think that was it.
Yep.
So that was your short film talk, which just real briefly is winning awards everywhere it's gone. List off the awards that this thing has won already.
It hasn't won a ton of awards. It won the film slam. It won an award in Melbourne, and it is nominated for three awards in Tampa.
Okay, so
one of which is a screenplay award, which took me by surprise because I don't think of myself as a writer, right?
Well, so, it wouldn't exist if you hadn't sat down and written it. So I guess you are a writer. I consider myself a writer, but I don't consider Brad a writer. But his name is on all the screenplays that I've completed in the last couple of years. So yeah, maybe I got to figure out how you guys do it if you don't consider yourselves a writer. But
but quickly, Talk is a 16-minute short film I put together with a group of actors that we were working together at Class Act Studios. I was there as an actor. And we all decided to make a film together. And I said, okay, I'll write something. And I wrote stuff with them in mind. And it's essentially, it's 4 vignettes of 2-person scenes. To give you an example, one of the scenes is kind of a first date. And one of the scenes is 2 of the characters getting divorced. So it's kind of a juxtaposition there. And then some other things are happening as well. And they all kind of tie together. Hopefully in a nice little bow to kind of show that although they're separate, all of these people are kind of connected and looking for the same thing.
See, it's another well-woven story that like brings everybody together. Fred's got that like down pat. He's figured out how to tell a story and not make it feel cheesy, is what I mean. Is like when I sit down to write stuff, I feel like it's like I'm like beating it over the head with like some feel-good shit. But you do it so well. It's like very delicate and touchy, and it's like this and then this and this, and it fits together like a puzzle, which is always nice. I always enjoy watching your stuff. So
thanks.
Thank
you. You're far too kind to me, Michael Beckermeyer. You're far
Everybody
too
loves Fred. But that's our new web series. Is Everybody Loves Fred. We'll just follow him around and have like the 10-year-old version of him, or like like the what was Everybody Loves Chris? It was a little kid.
Yeah.
So what we'll do is we'll have
everybody loved the 10-year-old.
That's hates Chris. Everybody hates Chris. Everybody loves Raymond. So
everybody loves
hates
Fred.
Brad. Everybody loves Fred. That's
right. That's good. That's what we'll do. So let everybody know how they can find you, get a hold of you, how they can contribute to your film, your Kickstarter, and just everything you want to say. This is your last pitch. They're going to give them everything they need to know.
Well, first of all, thank you, both of you guys, for having me on, doing this, and giving me the opportunity. So the Kickstarter goes until 8 p.m. on December the 12th, and we need to reach the entire goal that we're reaching for by December 12th at 8 p.m. We're like just exactly halfway there right now. So we have 3.5 weeks to finish it off. So you can go to jamesryderfilm.com, or you can go to fredzara.com, find the link there, or you can follow me on Twitter, and I'm constantly tweeting about it, or you can go on Kickstarter and you can search for James Ryder. So there's several ways to find it. jamesryderfilm.com.
Awesome. Well, I've been really busy, and I felt bad every time I've logged on recently and not retweeted you. I'll see stuff on Facebook. I'll just literally sometimes just checking Facebook for like 2 minutes before the end of the night. And I have been where you are, so I'm like a little more like there's like have guilt.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go to confession to confess that no, it's been like
I'm a sick man.
It's been 5 days. It's been 5 days since I've last retweeted Fred Zara.
But you, thank you. You just contributed to the campaign within the last day or so. So
I did. So I hope that I hope it clicks, because I love watching Fred Zara movies. So
good.
Oh, your film Read Me.
I got one.
Your film Read Me is on Amazon right now, right? People can watch it there. I forgot to mention that.
Oh yeah. You can go on Amazon. Talk's gonna go on Amazon at some point too.
Oh, great.
As soon as it's done with some festivals, you can go on Amazon and you could search for Read Me movie, or you could search for my name, Fred Zara, FredZara, and you will come up with my two films, Average Community and Read Me, which are up on Amazon and Amazon Prime. So if you have Amazon Prime, you just get to watch it, and it comes with Amazon Prime.
Awesome, cool. Well, that is it for this episode of Film Reverie. Which we're calling, I guess, Film Reverie Live, because that's exactly what it is. It's not just a clever name. That is exactly what it is. It's Film Reverie Live.
Yep.
I am Beckermeyer. This is Balding Ewok, named also, a.k.a. Brad, with the boring name Brad.
Yes.
Yeah, that's why we named him Balding Ewok. If you want to follow us if you want to find us anywhere, we're on Twitter, Beckermeyer and Balding Ewok. We also started doing another show called WTAF Previews, where we basically are sitting around and talking about whether we want to see a movie or not based on its trailer.
And every once in a while, we'll review it.
And we'll also review.
So on the road while we're driving.
So that's at another place. You got to go to supermegaultra.com, but that's the first thing. We should make a graphic for that. So we can
that'd be good.
Supermegaultra.com. And that's it for this time. We will be back soon. Hopefully, hope you enjoy this, and go support Fred and his movies, and help him get his film made. And we will see you again next time.
Hooray!
See ya.